Serafina stood in the crowded market square of Ashford, her worn basket pressed against her hip. The autumn sun felt warm on her face. Around her, vendors shouted about fresh bread and ripe apples. Children ran between carts, laughing. The smell of roasted chestnuts filled the air. She smiled at her son. Thomas was 6 years old now. His dark curls bounced as he walked beside her. His eyes were the deepest brown, like polished oak. His nose turned up slightly at the tip. His chin had a small dimple in the center. "Mama, can we get honey cakes?" Thomas asked. His voice was bright with hope. "Maybe," Serafina said, "if we have enough coins left." She was counting their money in her mind. 3 shillings and 4 pence. That had to cover flour, salt, and candles. Maybe a small piece of cheese if she was lucky. Honey cakes were a dream too far. Thomas didn't complain. He never did. He was a good boy, a sweet boy. He held her hand as they walked past the baker's stall. Then the crowd began to shift. People stepped back from the center of the square. Whispers rose like wind through grass. Serafina felt the change in the air. Something important was happening. "Make way!" a guard shouted. "Make way for His Grace!" Serafina's stomach tightened. She knew that title. Everyone in Ashford knew it. The Duke of Thornwood. He visited the village twice a year, once in spring, once in autumn. He came to inspect his lands, collect rents, and remind everyone who held the power. The people feared him, not because he was cruel, but because he was distant, cold, unreachable. Serafina had never seen him up close. She always made sure of that. But today, Thomas pulled her forward. His curiosity was stronger than her caution. "Mama, I want to see the Duke," he said. "Thomas, no." But it was too late. The crowd pressed in, and they were pushed toward the front. Serafina tried to turn away, but bodies blocked her path. Her heart began to pound. And then she saw him. The Duke of Thornwood rode through the square on a black horse. His shoulders were broad beneath a deep blue coat. His hair was dark, almost black, and it fell in waves to his collar. His jaw was strong and clean-shaven. His eyes were the deepest brown, like polished oak. His nose turned up slightly at the tip, and his chin had a small dimple in the center. Serafina's breath stopped. No. No, no, no. Thomas tugged on her skirt. "Mama, look! Look at the Duke!" She couldn't look away. Her hands began to shake. The basket slipped from her fingers and hit the ground. Apples rolled across the cobblestones. The Duke's gaze swept over the crowd. For a moment, just one terrible moment, his eyes met hers. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? Confusion? She couldn't tell. Then his horse moved on, and he was past them. Serafina exhaled. Her lungs burned. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. "Mama?" Thomas's voice was small now, worried. She knelt down quickly and gathered the apples. Her hands were still shaking. She forced a smile onto her face. "It's all right," she said. "I just dropped the basket." But Thomas wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at the Duke's back as the man rode toward the manor house on the hill. Thomas's face was pale. His eyes were wide and strange. "Mama," he said slowly, "why does that man look like me?" The world tilted. Serafina's vision blurred at the edges. Her throat closed. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't think. "Thomas," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "What did you say?" Thomas turned to her. His small face was full of innocent confusion. "The Duke," he said. "He has my eyes, and my nose, and my chin." He touched his own face, tracing the dimple. "Why does he look like me, Mama?" Serafina's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. She grabbed Thomas's hand and pulled him away from the crowd. She didn't care about the apples anymore. She didn't care about the shopping. She had to get away, far away. before anyone else noticed, before anyone else saw what her son had seen. "Mama, you're hurting me," Thomas said. She loosened her grip but didn't stop walking. Her mind was racing. How had she been so careless? How had she let him see? How had she let them stand so close? "We're going home," she said. "But we didn't get the flower." "Now, Thomas." Her tone was sharp, too sharp. Thomas's face crumpled and guilt stabbed through her chest, but she couldn't stop. She couldn't explain. Not here, not now, maybe not ever. They walked through the narrow streets of Ashford in silence. Serafina kept her head down. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Behind her eyelids, she saw the Duke's face, and Thomas's face, and the terrible, undeniable truth. Someone was bound to notice eventually, but she didn't know it would be her own son. Serafina couldn't stop thinking about that day, the day everything changed. 7 years ago, she had been a different person. Young, foolish, full of dreams that didn't fit her station. She had worked as a maid in Thornwood Manor. The grand estate sat on the hill above Ashford like a crown. Its windows gleamed in the sunlight. Its gardens stretched for acres. Serafina had scrubbed floors, polished silver, and changed linens. She had kept her head down and her mouth shut. That was the rule for servants. Be invisible. But the Duke had seen her anyway. His name was Thorn Ashford, the Duke of Thornwood. He was 25 then, newly titled after his father's death. He was serious and cold, the other maids said. He never smiled, never spoke unless necessary. He carried the weight of his responsibilities like iron chains. Serafina had tried to avoid him, but Thornwood Manor was only so large. One night she had been cleaning the library. It was late. The other servants had gone to bed. Serafina liked the quiet. She liked being alone with the books, even though she couldn't read most of them. She had been dusting the shelves when the door opened. The Duke stood in the doorway. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His hair was messy, as if he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes were tired. "I'm sorry, Your Grace," Serafina had said quickly. She curtsied. "I'll leave." "No," he said. His voice was low, rough. "Stay. I need the fire lit." She had nodded and moved to the hearth. Her hands shook as she struck the flint. She could feel his gaze on her back. It made her skin prickle. The fire caught. Flames licked at the wood. Warmth spread through the room. "What's your name?" he asked. She froze. Servants weren't supposed to have names, not to people like him. "Serafina, Your Grace," she said softly. "Serafina." He repeated it like he was tasting the word. "That's a beautiful name." Her cheeks burned. She kept her eyes on the floor. "Thank you, Your Grace." "Look at me." It wasn't a request, it was a command. Slowly she lifted her gaze. His eyes met hers, and the air between them changed. It became heavy, electric, dangerous. "You're afraid of me," he said. "No, Your Grace." "You're lying." She swallowed. "Yes, Your Grace." For the first time, his mouth curved, just slightly. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "Good," he said. "You should be." But she didn't feel afraid, not really. She felt something else, something warm and reckless and utterly foolish. That was the first night. There were many more after that. He would call for her in the evenings, always when the house was quiet, always when no one would see. They would sit by the fire in the library and he would talk. About his father, about the pressure of the title, about the loneliness of being a duke. Serafina listened. She didn't offer advice. She didn't try to fix him. She just listened. And slowly, the Duke began to change. His smiles came easier. His voice grew softer. He looked at her like she was something precious. She fell in love with him, completely, hopelessly. And he fell in love with her too. She was sure of it. One night, he kissed her. His hands cupped her face like she was made of glass. His lips were soft and searching. The world disappeared. There was only him. Only the heat between them. Only the terrible, beautiful certainty that this was wrong and right at the same time. "I can't offer you anything," he whispered against her mouth. "You know that, don't you?" "I know," she said. "I'll ruin you." "I don't care." And she didn't. Not then. They were careful. They met in secret. They kept their love hidden like a stolen treasure. For 3 months, Serafina lived in a dream. She believed it could last forever. But dreams always end. One morning, the head housekeeper called her into the office. The woman's face was hard. Her eyes were cold. "You're dismissed," she said. Serafina's stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "You know why." The housekeeper's voice was sharp as a blade. "Pack your things. Leave before sundown." "But I haven't done anything." "Don't lie to me, girl." The housekeeper leaned forward. "Did you think no one would notice? Did you think the Duke's affections were a secret?" Serafina's face went white. "Please, I need this position. I have nowhere else to go." "You should have thought of that before you spread your legs for a man above your station." The words hit like a slap. Serafina's eyes burned with tears, but she refused to let them fall. "Does he know?" she asked quietly. "Does the Duke know you're dismissing me?" The housekeeper's smile was cruel. "His Grace has more important concerns than a parlor maid. Now get out." Serafina packed her few belongings in a cloth sack. She waited by the servants' entrance for hours, hoping Thorn would come, hoping he would stop this, hoping he would fight for her. He never came. She left Thornwood Manor that evening with her heart in pieces. She walked to the village and found work at the tavern. It paid less, the hours were longer, but she survived. 2 months later, she realized she was pregnant. She had cried for 3 days straight. Then she dried her tears, straightened her spine, and made a choice. She would raise the child alone. She would never tell Thorn. She would disappear into the life of a common woman and let the Duke live his grand, untouchable life. It was better that way. Safer. For 7 years she had kept that promise. And now, in a single moment, her son had shattered it. 3 days after the market, a guard came to Serafina's door. She was hanging laundry in the small yard behind her cottage. Thomas was at school. The autumn wind tugged at the wet sheets, making them snap like sails. The knock was sharp and official. Serafina's hands froze on a pillowcase. Dread pooled in her stomach. She walked to the door and opened it slowly. A man in the Duke's livery stood on her step. His face was blank, professional. "Miss Serafina Collier?" he asked. Her throat was dry. "Yes?" "His Grace the Duke of Thornwood requests your presence at the manor this evening. You are to come alone. A carriage will collect you at 7. Her heart stopped. "Why?" "I was not given that information, miss." The guard's tone was flat. "Will you comply?" She wanted to say no. She wanted to slam the door and run. But you didn't refuse a duke. Not in Ashford. Not anywhere. "Yes," she whispered. The guard nodded and left. Serafina closed the door and leaned against it. Her legs were shaking. Her pulse roared in her ears. He knew. Somehow, Thorn knew. Maybe someone had told him. Maybe he had noticed Thomas himself. Maybe it didn't matter how. The only thing that mattered was what he would do now. Fear wrapped around her ribs like iron bands. She spent the rest of the day in a fog. She picked Thomas up from school and made him supper. She braided his hair and kissed his forehead and told him she had to go out for a few hours. "Where, Mama?" he asked. "Just to see someone," she said. "Mrs. Alcott will stay with you." Mrs. Alcott was their neighbour, a kind, round woman who loved Thomas like her own grandson. She arrived just before 7 and settled into the rocking chair with her knitting. "Don't you worry, dear," Mrs. Alcott said. "We'll be just fine." Serafina kissed Thomas one more time and stepped outside. The carriage was waiting, black and polished, with the thornwood crest on the door. A footman opened it for her. She climbed inside, and the door shut with a heavy thud. The ride to the manor felt like a journey to the gallows. Serafina watched the village disappear through the window. The houses grew smaller, the road grew steeper, and then the manor appeared. Thornwood Manor was just as grand as she remembered, maybe more so. The stone walls glowed gold in the evening light. The gardens were perfectly trimmed. Lanterns flickered along the path. The carriage stopped at the front entrance. The footman helped her down. A butler stood waiting. "This way, miss," he said. She followed him through the grand hall. Her footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Portraits of Thorne's ancestors stared down at her. Their painted eyes seemed to judge her. The butler led her to a study. He opened the door and stepped aside. "His Grace will join you shortly," he said. Then he left. Serafina stood in the center of the room. Her hands were clenched at her sides. The study was warm. A fire crackled in the hearth. Bookshelves lined the walls. A large desk sat by the window. And then the door opened. Thorne stepped inside. Serafina's breath caught. He looked the same, and yet completely different. His face was harder now, sharper. There were faint lines around his eyes. His mouth was a thin, serious line. He wore a black coat and a white cravat. His hair was neatly combed. He looked like a duke, cold, powerful, unreachable. But his eyes, those deep brown eyes, were exactly as she remembered. "Serafina," he said. His voice was low and controlled. "Your Grace," she whispered. She curtsied, though her legs felt weak. He closed the door behind him. The sound was final, absolute. "Sit," he said. "I'd rather stand." His jaw tightened. "Sit, please." The please was unexpected. It softened something in her. She sank into the chair by the fire, her hands twisted in her lap. Thorne didn't sit. He stood by the desk, his arms crossed. He stared at her for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. "You left," he said finally. "I was dismissed. I didn't know." "Didn't you?" The words came out sharper than she intended. His eyes flashed. "No, I didn't. I came to find you that night. You were already gone. No one would tell me where." Serafina's chest ached. "It wouldn't have mattered." "It would have." "No," she shook her head. "You're a duke, Thorne. I was a maid. There was never a future for us. Don't call me that." "What?" "Thorne." His voice was rough, strained. "You're the only person who ever called me that. And when you left, He stopped. His hands curled into fists. "Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you send word?" "Because I knew what would happen." Serafina stood. Her voice rose. "You would have done your duty. You would have married some lady with a title and land and given her children. And I would have been... what? A mistress? A secret? I wanted more than that. I deserved more." "You did," Thorne said quietly. "You deserved everything." The admission broke something inside her. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Why am I here?" she asked. Thorne walked to the window. He stared out at the darkening sky. "I saw him," he said. "Your son." Her stomach dropped. "Thorne, is he mine?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Serafina's mouth opened, closed. Her mind raced. She could lie. She could deny it. She could protect Thomas from this world of titles and expectations and cold, impossible rules, but she was so tired of lying. "Yes," she whispered. Thorne's shoulders stiffened. He didn't turn around. "His name is Thomas," she continued. Her voice shook. He's 6 years old. He's smart and kind and happy. And he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know anything about you. But he saw me, Thorn said. Didn't he? Yes. And he noticed. Yes. Thorn turned. His face was pale. His eyes were dark with emotion. Why didn't you tell me? What would you have done? Seraphina's voice broke. Would you have acknowledged him? Given him your name? Made him your heir? Or would you have paid me to disappear? I would have taken care of you, both of you. That's not what I wanted. Then what did you want? Thorn crossed the room in 3 strides. He stood so close she could feel the heat of him. His voice dropped to a whisper. Tell me, Seraphina, what did you want from me? I wanted you to love me, she said. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I wanted you to choose me, not because of duty or obligation or guilt, but because you couldn't live without me. And I knew you never would. Thorn's hand lifted. His fingers brushed her cheek, catching a tear. His touch was so gentle it hurt. You're wrong, he said. I'm not. I haven't stopped thinking about you for 7 years. His voice was raw, broken. Every day, every night, I searched for you. I sent men to every village, every town, every corner of England. But you vanished. And I thought I'd lost you forever. Seraphina's breath hitched. Thorn. I should have fought for you then, he said. I was a coward. I let you go because I didn't know how to keep you. But I know now. His hand slid to her jaw, tilting her face up. His eyes burned into hers. I won't make that mistake again. And then, he kissed her. It was desperate, hungry, full of 7 years of longing. His mouth claimed hers like he was drowning and she was air. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his coat. The world spun away. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I can't do this, Seraphina whispered. Yes, you can. Thomas is my son. Thorn's voice was firm, final. And I will claim him, publicly. I will give him my name, my title, everything. Seraphina's eyes widened. You can't. The scandal. I don't care. The society ladies will destroy you. Let them try. Thorn, be reasonable. I've been reasonable for 7 years. His hands framed her face. His gaze was fierce. I lost you once. I won't lose you again. Or him. I will fight the entire kingdom if I have to. But Thomas will be acknowledged. And you, he paused. His voice softened. You will be my wife. Seraphina's heart stopped. What? Marry me, Thorn said. That's insane. It's the only thing that makes sense. You don't understand. I understand everything. His thumb brushed her lower lip. I understand that I have wasted 7 years without you. I understand that I have a son I've never held. I understand that I love you, Seraphina. I never stopped. And I will not lose you again. Tears streamed down her face. You can't love me. I'm no one. You're everything. This will ruin you. Then we'll be ruined together. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted it so badly. But fear clawed at her chest. What if you change your mind? She whispered. What if the pressure is too much? What if you wake up one day and regret this? Thorn leaned his forehead against hers. His breath was warm on her skin. I have regretted every day without you, he said. That is the only regret I will ever carry. And in that moment, Seraphina broke. She kissed him, hard and fierce and full of all the love she had tried to bury. He pulled her against him, and she melted into his arms. For the first time in 7 years, she felt whole. But she didn't know someone was watching. The next morning, Serafina woke in her own bed. For a moment, she thought the night before had been a dream, but her lips were still swollen from Thorn's kisses. Her heart was still racing. He wanted to marry her. He wanted to claim Thomas. It felt impossible, like a fairy tale. But fairy tales didn't prepare you for the real world. Serafina rose and dressed quickly. Thomas was already awake, playing with his wooden soldiers on the floor. He looked up when she entered. "Morning, Mama," he said. "Morning, love." She kissed his head. "Are you hungry?" "Always." She smiled and went to make porridge. As she stirred the pot, her mind raced. What would she tell Thomas? How would she explain? Would he understand? A knock interrupted her thoughts. Serafina frowned. It was early, too early for visitors. She opened the door and froze. A woman stood on her step. She was tall and elegant, with pale blonde hair swept into an elaborate style. Her gown was deep green silk. Jewels glittered at her throat. Her eyes were ice blue and sharp as glass. Serafina recognized her immediately. Lady Isadora Pembroke, Thorn's intended bride. "Miss Collier," Lady Isadora said. Her voice was smooth and cold. "May I come in?" Serafina's throat went dry. Yes, of course." She stepped aside. Lady Isadora swept into the cottage like a queen entering a peasant's hovel. Her gaze traveled over the cracked walls, the simple furniture, the low ceiling. Her mouth curved in a faint, mocking smile. "Charming," she said. Serafina's hands clenched. "What do you want?" "To talk." Lady Isadora turned. Her eyes were calculating. "About the Duke." Serafina's heart pounded. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't play foolish with me." Lady Isadora's tone was sharp. "I know you were at Thornwood Manor last night. I know he summoned you, and I know why." "How?" "I have eyes everywhere, Miss Collier. Did you think the Duke's household is loyal only to him?" Lady Isadora stepped closer. Her perfume was heavy and cloying. "You have a son who looks remarkably like his grace, a son he has now decided to acknowledge." Serafina's stomach twisted. "That's not your concern." "Oh, but it is." Lady Isadora's smile was thin, dangerous. "You see, the Duke and I have an understanding. Our families have been planning our union for years. It is a matter of alliance, of land, of power, and I will not allow a common maid and her bastard to ruin it." The word bastard hit like a slap. Serafina's vision went red. "Get out," she said. "Not yet." Lady Isadora's voice dropped. "I came to offer you a bargain." "I don't want anything from you." "Not even £50,000? Serafina's breath stopped. Lady Isadora opened her reticule and pulled out a folded paper. She held it up. "This is a banknote, £50,000. More money than you could ever dream of. Enough to leave Ashford, to start a new life, to give your son everything he could ever need." "In exchange for what?" Serafina's voice shook. "You disappear. You take the boy and go, far away. You never contact the Duke again. You never speak his name. You vanish, and you let him fulfill his duty." Serafina stared at the paper. £50,000. It was a fortune. It was freedom. It was a future for Thomas that didn't involve scandal and whispers and shame. But it also meant giving up Thorn. Forever. "He loves me," Serafina said quietly. Lady Isadora laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. "Love? My dear girl, dukes don't marry for love. They marry for duty. And the Duke knows that. Whatever pretty words he whispered to you last night, he will come to his senses. Men always do." "You're wrong." "Am I?" Lady Isadora tilted her head. Tell me, Miss Collier, what will happen when the scandal breaks? When society learns the Duke has a base-born son? When the whispers start? When the other families withdraw their support? When his reputation is destroyed? She paused. And what will happen to your son? Do you think the world will be kind to him? Do you think he will be accepted? Or will he be mocked and shunned for the circumstances of his birth? Serafina's chest ached. She had thought about this every day, every night. She knew the risks. Thomas deserves to know his father, she said. And he will, in secret. The Duke can support him quietly, but if you force this into the open, you will destroy them both. Lady Isadora's voice softened, became almost kind. I know you love the boy. I can see it. So do what's best for him. Take the money. Give him a life free from scandal. Let him grow up happy and safe. Isn't that what a mother wants? Tears burned Serafina's eyes. Her hands shook. I need to think, she whispered. You have one day. Lady Isadora placed the banknote on the table. Tomorrow evening I will return. If you agree, the money is yours. If you refuse... Her smile turned sharp. Well, I will make sure the scandal is so great that even the Duke cannot protect you. She swept out of the cottage, leaving the door open behind her. Serafina sank into a chair. Her whole body trembled. She stared at the banknote. The numbers blurred through her tears. What should she do? Her heart said, stay, fight, claim the life Thorn was offering. But her mind said, go, protect Thomas, keep him safe from a world that would tear him apart. She didn't know which voice to listen to. But she didn't know the Duke was already making his own move. Thorn didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study staring at the fire. His mind turned over plans, strategies. He would announce Thomas publicly. He would marry Serafina. He would weather the storm. But first, he needed to sever ties with Lady Isadora. At dawn, he summoned his steward. Send word to Lord Pembroke. I will be visiting this morning. It is urgent. The steward bowed and left. Thorn dressed in his finest coat. He looked every inch the Duke, cold, commanding, untouchable. But inside, his heart raced. He rode to the Pembroke estate. It was only 5 miles from Thornwood. The house was grand but gaudy. Too much gold, too many statues. It lacked elegance. Lord Pembroke met him in the drawing room. He was a stout man with a red face and calculating eyes. Your Grace, Lord Pembroke said. He bowed. This is an unexpected pleasure. I'll be brief, Thorn said. I am ending our arrangement. There will be no marriage between myself and Lady Isadora. Lord Pembroke's face went white, then red, then purple. What? You heard me. But our families, the contracts... I will compensate you for any losses, Thorn said coolly. But the engagement is over. You cannot do this, Lord Pembroke sputtered. We had an agreement. An agreement I no longer wish to honour. Thorn's voice was ice. I suggest you accept the terms, unless you wish me to make public the reasons for my withdrawal. Lord Pembroke's mouth snapped shut. His eyes narrowed. You've found someone else. Thorn didn't answer. Who is she? Some lady from London? A widow? That is none of your concern. It is if you embarrass my daughter. Lord Pembroke's voice rose. Isadora has been patient. She has waited. She has prepared for this marriage, and now you cast her aside like she is nothing. Lady Isadora will recover, Thorn said. She is young, beautiful, wealthy. She will have no shortage of suitors. But she will not be a duchess. No, she will not. Lord Pembroke's face twisted with rage. You will regret this, Your Grace. Mark my words, you will regret this. Thorn turned and walked out. He felt lighter, freer, one obstacle removed. But he didn't know Lady Isadora had already made her move. Serafina spent the day in agony. She couldn't eat, couldn't think. She scrubbed floors and mended clothes and tried to distract herself, but the banknote sat on the table like a curse. £50,000. A new life. Or thorn. Thomas came home from school with mud on his knees and a big smile. "Mama, I learned a new song today. Want to hear?" "Of course," she said. She sat down and he sang for her. His voice was sweet and off-key. Her heart broke a little more. What kind of mother was she, if she put her own desires above her son's future? But what kind of mother was she, if she taught him that love wasn't worth fighting for? At 7 that evening, Lady Isadora returned. She didn't knock, she simply walked in. Her eyes went to the table. The banknote was still there. "Well?" Lady Isadora asked. "Have you decided?" Serafina stood. She had been crying all day. Her eyes were red and swollen, but her voice was steady. "Yes," she said. Lady Isadora smiled. "Good. Take the money and—" "No." The smile vanished. "No?" Lady Isadora repeated. "I won't take it." Serafina picked up the banknote and held it out. "I won't leave. I won't hide. And I won't let you bully me into giving up the man I love." Lady Isadora's face twisted. "You stupid girl. Do you have any idea what you're doing?" "Yes." Serafina's voice was strong now, certain. "I'm choosing him. I'm choosing us." "You're choosing ruin." "Maybe, but I'm choosing it together." Lady Isadora's eyes flashed with fury. She snatched the banknote and stuffed it back into her reticule. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. When this blows up in your face, when your son is mocked and shunned, when the Duke realizes his mistake, don't come crying to me." "I won't need to." Lady Isadora turned on her heel and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Serafina exhaled. Her legs shook. She sank into a chair and buried her face in her hands. She had done it. She had chosen Thorn. Now she just had to hope he truly meant what he said. But she didn't know Lady Isadora had one final card to play. 2 days later, all of Ashford was talking. Serafina heard the whispers as she walked to the market. Women turned away when she passed. Men stared. Children pointed. Her stomach twisted. What had happened? She bought bread from the baker. The man wouldn't meet her eyes. He handed her the loaf in silence and took her coin without a word. "Please," Serafina said. "What's going on?" The baker hesitated. Then he leaned forward. "You haven't heard?" "Heard what?" "There's a pamphlet. Someone printed it and distributed it all over the village. It says—" He trailed off, his face flushed. "What does it say?" "It says you seduced the Duke, that you trapped him with a child, that you're trying to blackmail him into marriage." Serafina's blood ran cold. "That's not true." The baker shrugged. "Don't matter if it's true or not. People are talking." She left the bakery in a daze. Her mind spun. A pamphlet? Who would do such a thing? But she already knew. Lady Isadora. Serafina hurried home. Her heart pounded. She had to protect Thomas. She had to keep him safe from the poison spreading through the village. But when she arrived at her cottage, Thomas was sitting on the step. His face was streaked with tears. "Thomas!" She ran to him. "What happened?" "The boys at school," he said. His voice shook. "They called me names. They said I don't have a father. They said I'm a bastard." Serafina's heart shattered. She pulled him into her arms. "Oh, love, I'm so sorry." "Is it true, Mama?" Thomas looked up at her. His eyes were full of pain. "Am I bad?" "No." Serafina's voice broke. "No, you are not bad. You are perfect. You are loved. Don't ever forget that." "But they said—" "It doesn't matter what they said." She held him tighter. "You are my son, and you are good and brave and kind, and I will never let anyone make you feel less than that." Thomas buried his face in her shoulder and cried. Serafina cried too. This was her fault. She had been selfish. She had chosen love over safety, and now her son was paying the price. But she didn't know Thorn was about to change everything. Thorn heard about the pamphlet within hours. His steward brought him a copy. Thorn read it. His jaw clenched tighter with every word. The lies were vicious, calculated, designed to destroy Serafina's reputation. He knew exactly who was behind it. "Prepare my horse," he said. "Your Grace, perhaps you should wait." "Now!" The steward bowed and fled. Thorn rode to Ashford at a gallop. People scattered when they saw him coming. He didn't care. He had only one destination: Serafina's cottage. He dismounted and pounded on the door. "Serafina, open the door!" It opened. Serafina stood there, her face pale and tear-streaked. Behind her, Thomas peeked out, his small face full of fear and curiosity. "Thorn," Serafina whispered. "You shouldn't be here. The scandal." "I don't give a damn about the scandal." Thorn stepped inside. His gaze landed on Thomas. His breath caught. This was his son. His son. Thomas stared back at him. His eyes were wide. "You're the Duke," he said softly. "Yes," Thorn said. He knelt down so they were eye to eye. "And you're Thomas." "How do you know my name?" "Because I've been looking for you." Thorn's voice was gentle. "For a long time." Thomas glanced at his mother. "Mama?" Serafina's eyes filled with tears. "Thomas, this is your father." Thomas's mouth fell open. "Really?" "Really." Thomas looked back at Thorn. "Why didn't you come before?" The question was so simple, so devastating. "Because I didn't know where you were," Thorn said. "But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Not ever." Thomas's lip quivered. "The boys at school said I don't have a father." "They were wrong." Thorn's voice was fierce. "You have a father, and I will make sure everyone knows it." "How?" Thorn stood. He looked at Serafina. "I'm going to make a public declaration. Today. I will announce that Thomas is my son. I will give him my name, and I will announce our engagement." Serafina's eyes widened. "Thorn, you can't—" "Watch me. The consequences, I will handle them." He cupped her face. "You chose me. Now let me choose you. Let me fight for you, for both of you." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm scared." "So am I." His thumb brushed her tears away. "But I'm more scared of losing you." She kissed him then, soft and desperate and full of hope. When they broke apart, Thomas was staring at them with wide eyes. "Are you going to marry Mama?" he asked. Thorn smiled. "Yes, if she'll have me." Thomas grinned. "Good. I always wanted a father." Thorn's chest tightened. He held out his hand. "Then let's make it official." Thomas took his hand, and together, the three of them walked out of the cottage. Thorn called for an assembly in the village square. Word spread like wildfire. By noon, the entire village had gathered. People whispered and speculated. What was the Duke going to say? Thorn stood on the platform used for market days. Serafina and Thomas stood beside him. Serafina's hand was in his. Thomas clung to his mother's skirt. The crowd was enormous. Faces stared up at them, some curious, some hostile, some afraid. Thorn raised his hand and the crowd fell silent. "Good people of Ashford," he began. His voice carried across the square. "I have called you here to make an announcement, one that concerns my family and my future." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 7 years ago, I made a terrible mistake. Thorn's gaze swept over them. I fell in love with a woman who was brave and kind and everything I didn't deserve. But I was a coward. I let her go. I let fear and duty keep me from fighting for her, and I have regretted it every day since. The crowd shifted. Some looked confused, others intrigued. "That woman is Serafina Collier," Thorn gestured to her. "And this is our son, Thomas." Gasps echoed. Heads turned. Whispers exploded. "I know what many of you are thinking," Thorn continued, "that this is scandalous, that it is improper, that I have disgraced my title." His voice grew harder, stronger. "But I tell you this, I will not hide my son. I will not pretend he doesn't exist. I will not let shame dictate my life. Thomas is my heir. He will carry the Ashford name, and anyone who speaks against him will answer to me." The crowd was silent now, stunned. "And as for Serafina," Thorn turned to her. His voice softened. "I am asking her to be my wife, not because of duty, not because of obligation, but because I love her, and I will not live another day without her." He knelt. The crowd gasped. "Serafina Collier," Thorn said, "will you marry me?" Tears poured down Serafina's face. Her hand covered her mouth. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Say yes, Mama," Thomas whispered. That broke her. She laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." Thorn surged to his feet and kissed her. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some shouted, some simply stared in shock. But Thorn didn't care. He had her. He had Thomas. He had everything that mattered. But he didn't know the fight was far from over. The next week was chaos. Letters arrived from every corner of England. Some congratulated Thorn. Many condemned him. The scandal was enormous. The gossip papers printed wild stories. Cartoons appeared showing a duke brought low by a common woman. But Thorn weathered it all. He refused every demand to renounce Thomas. He ignored every plea to break the engagement. He stood firm. Serafina, however, struggled. She saw the way people looked at her, the sneers, the judgment. She heard the whispers, the cruelty. Every day it chipped away at her. One evening, she sat in the library at Thornwood Manor. Thorn had insisted she and Thomas move in immediately. The manor was overwhelming, grand, cold. She felt like an imposter. Thorn found her there, staring into the fire. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Everything," she whispered. He sat beside her. "Talk to me." "I don't belong here, Thorn. I'm not a duchess. I don't know how to be one." "You'll learn." "What if I can't? What if I embarrass you?" "You could never embarrass me." "You don't know that." Her voice cracked. "What if Thomas grows up hated? What if he's never accepted? What if I've ruined his life?" Thorn took her hands. "Listen to me. Thomas will be loved, because he is ours, and we will teach him to be strong, to be kind, to fight for what matters. And as for you," he lifted her chin, "you are already everything a duchess should be. You are brave, compassionate, fierce. You fought for our son when I wasn't there. You survived when the world tried to break you. You are extraordinary, Serafina, and I am honored to be yours." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I'm scared." "So am I, but we'll be scared together." She kissed him, slow and deep and full of love. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too." But someone was watching. Lady Isadora had not given up. She sat in her drawing room, surrounded by crumpled papers and empty wine glasses. Her plans had failed. The Duke had chosen the maid. The engagement was public. The scandal was out of control. But she wasn't finished. If she couldn't have Thorn, no one would. She summoned her father's solicitor, a weaselly man named Mr. Crow. "I need you to file a petition with the House of Lords," she said. "On what grounds, my lady?" "That the Duke's son is illegitimate, that he cannot inherit the title, that the Duke is unfit to hold his position." Mr. Crow's eyes widened. "That is extreme." "I don't care. Do it." "It will cause a scandal, my lady. It could destroy... Good. Her smile was sharp, cruel. I want it to destroy him. Mr. Crow hesitated. Then he nodded. As you wish. 2 weeks later, the petition was filed. Thorn received the summons while at breakfast. His steward handed him the letter. Thorn read it. His face went white. What is it? Serafina asked. A legal challenge. Lady Isadora is petitioning the House of Lords. She's trying to have Thomas declared illegitimate to strip him of his inheritance. Serafina's stomach dropped. Can she do that? She can try. What does this mean? Thorn set the letter down. His jaw was tight. It means we fight. In court. Publicly. Every detail of our relationship will be examined. Every secret will be dragged into the light. Thorn. I won't let her win. His voice was steel. I won't let her take Thomas's future. But Serafina saw the fear in his eyes, and she realized the battle was far from over. The hearing took place in London. The House of Lords was a grand, intimidating chamber. Lords in wigs and robes sat in rows, their faces stern and judgmental. Thorn stood at the defendant's bench. Serafina sat in the gallery, her hands clenched in her lap. Thomas was back at Thornwood with Mrs. Alcott. She had refused to let him see this. Lady Isadora sat across the room, her face serene, confident. The accusations were brutal. Mr. Crow stood and laid out the case. Serafina was a seductress. She had trapped the Duke. Thomas was proof of her scheme. The Duke had been bewitched, manipulated. He was unfit to lead. Serafina's face burned with shame. She wanted to stand, to scream, to defend herself. But Thorn's lawyer stood instead. My lords, he said, you have heard allegations, but where is the evidence? Where is the proof of manipulation? Miss Collier was dismissed from service 7 years ago. She did not seek out the Duke. She did not demand money or title. She raised her son alone, in poverty, asking for nothing. Does that sound like a schemer? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. And as for the Duke, the lawyer continued, he has acted with honor. He acknowledged his son. He claimed responsibility. He offered marriage. Are these the actions of a man bewitched, or of a man who knows his duty? The murmurs grew louder. Then Thorn stood. I wish to speak, he said. The Lord Chancellor nodded. Proceed, Your Grace. Thorn turned to face the chamber. His voice was clear and strong. I will not lie to you. Thomas was born out of wedlock. I do not deny that. But he is my son, my blood, and I will not let politics or pride erase him. He deserves his birthright. He deserves his name. And I will fight every one of you to ensure he gets it. Silence fell. As for Miss Collier, Thorn continued, she is the bravest woman I have ever known. She did not trap me. She loved me, and I was too blind and too cowardly to see it. But I see it now, and I will spend the rest of my life making it right. He paused. So cast your votes. Strip me of my title if you wish. But know this. I will not abandon my son. I will not abandon the woman I love. And if that makes me unfit to be a duke, then so be it. The chamber erupted. Lords shouted, some in support, some in outrage. The vote was called. Serafina held her breath. The results came back, in favor of the Duke, by a narrow margin. Serafina sobbed with relief. Thorn turned and found her in the crowd. His eyes were bright with tears. He mouthed the words, "We won." But Lady Isadora's face was twisted with rage, and Serafina knew this wasn't truly over. Lady Isadora confronted Serafina outside the chamber. "You think you've won," she hissed, "but this isn't over." "Yes, it is," Serafina said. She was exhausted, drained. "You lost. Accept it." "I will never accept it." Lady Isadora stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a venomous whisper. You stole my future. You humiliated me, and I will make you pay. I didn't steal anything. Thorn was never yours. He was promised to me. Promises mean nothing without love. Lady Isadora's hand shot out. She slapped Serafina across the face. The sound echoed. Serafina's cheek burned, but she didn't flinch. She met Lady Isadora's gaze, steady and calm. Yes, that all you have? Serafina asked softly. Violence and threats. How sad. Lady Isadora's face twisted. You… Enough. Thorn's voice cut through the air like a blade. He strode toward them, his expression thunderous. You struck her, he said. His voice was low, dangerous. Lady Isadora's face went pale. Your Grace, You will leave, now, and if you ever come near my family again, I will destroy you. Completely. Do you understand? Lady Isadora's mouth opened, closed. She looked at Serafina, at Thorn, then she turned and fled. Thorn pulled Serafina into his arms. Are you all right? I'm fine, she whispered. It's over. It's over, he agreed. And this time, it truly was. The wedding took place 3 months later. It was small, intimate. Only close friends and family attended. Thorn didn't care about grand spectacles. He only cared about Serafina. She wore a simple white gown. Her hair was loose and crowned with flowers. She looked like an angel. Thomas stood beside Thorn as his best man. He wore a tiny suit and a serious expression. He took his job very seriously. When Serafina walked down the aisle, Thorn's breath caught. He had never seen anything more beautiful. They said their vows in the small chapel on the Thornwood estate. The sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting rainbows across the floor. I, Thorn Ashford, take you, Serafina Collier, to be my wife. I promise to love you, to honor you, to stand beside you, for all the days of my life. I, Serafina Collier, take you, Thorn Ashford, to be my husband. I promise to love you, to support you, to fight with you and for you, for all the days of my life. They kissed. The small crowd cheered. Thomas grinned. Does this mean I can call you father now? Thorn laughed. Yes, you can call me father. Thomas threw his arms around Thorn's waist. I love you, father. Thorn's eyes filled with tears. I love you too, son. And in that moment, everything was perfect. Life at Thornwood Manor changed. Serafina learned to navigate the world of the nobility. She made mistakes, she stumbled, but Thorn was always there, steady and sure. He never let her fall. Thomas thrived. He was tutored by the best teachers. He learned to ride, to fence, to read and write. But more than that, he learned to be kind, to be fair, to use his privilege to help others. Thorn was a devoted father. He spent hours with Thomas, teaching him about the estate, about responsibility, about love. The bond between them grew stronger every day. And Serafina? She found her place. She was no longer the maid. She was the Duchess, and she wore the title with grace and strength. They had more children, 2 daughters, Rose and Lily. The manor filled with laughter and chaos and joy. The scandal faded, the whispers stopped. The world moved on. But Serafina never forgot where she came from. She used her position to help the poor in Ashford. She opened schools. She funded hospitals. She made sure no woman would ever have to face what she had faced. And every night, when the children were asleep, Thorn would pull her into his arms. Do you regret it? He would ask. Any of it? Never, she would say. Not a single moment. I love you, Serafina. I love you too, Thorn. And they would sit by the fire, hand in hand, and watch the flames dance. Because they had fought for their love. They had weathered the storms. They had refused to give up. And in the end, they had won. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. Thomas stood in the library of Thornwood Manor. He was 16 now, tall and strong, with his father's eyes and his mother's kindness. He stared at a painting on the wall. It showed his parents on their wedding day. They looked so young, so happy. "Do you remember the day you asked about me?" a voice said. Thomas turned. His father stood in the doorway. "Of course," Thomas said. "I asked Mama why you looked like me." Thorne smiled. And she froze. She was scared. "She was protecting you." Thomas nodded. "I'm grateful for that. For her, for you, for all of it." "So am I." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Thomas spoke again. "Father, what if people still talk, still judge?" "Let them," Thorne said. "Your worth is not defined by their opinions. It's defined by your actions, by your choices, by the love you give and receive." Thomas smiled. "You sound like Mama." "Good. Your mother is the wisest person I know." They laughed. And in that moment, Thomas understood. His parents had given him more than a name, more than a title. They had given him a legacy of love, of courage, of fighting for what mattered. And he would carry that legacy forward, always.